Let's start off this list in at number 10 with The Conjuring. This horror movie was based on true events that happened when Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated a haunted house. So naturally, it makes sense that a movie surrounded by witches, demons, and ghosts would be haunted in real life. It might even be the only horror movie franchise that was allegedly cursed to the point that it even affected its sequels. So what really went down? People on set said that they actually feel really jittery and uneasy. They constantly felt like they were being watched by an evil presence, and they didn't feel safe at all. I really hope this movie set had good insurance. One of the staff members' dogs started to behave strangely as well. He would growl at the air when nothing was even there. Well, I mean, he's seeing something, like a ghost or something. But then once the film was done, the dog would just go back to normal. One actress said that she felt a strange wind that came from nowhere. Maybe she had one too many tacos at craft services, but all jokes aside, she actually became so ill that she had to go to the hospital, and she actually blamed that on the strange wind. Another actress didn't feel comfortable taking her script home with her. She even claimed that there were claw marks on her laptop after coming home from shooting. But the biggest cause for concern was a random fire that broke out on set. Clearly an evil spirit didn't approve of the film. The Crow comes flying onto this list next up at number 9. This is a martial arts movie that starred Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee is my favorite guy of all time. His name might sound familiar because he is the one and only Bruce Lee's son. Well, during the final shot of the movie, Brandon Lee's character was supposed to be shot with a rubber bullet, but there was a metal shard lodged in the chamber and the bullet hit him in the abdomen, and it ended up killing him. He was only 28 years old. Some people might say that this was a freak accident, but when you put everything together, things get pretty scary. And the movie we're talking about that he got shot in was The Crow, and apparently the Lee family is cursed. Bruce Lee supposedly had multiple premonitions of his death, and Brandon believed his family was cursed. I mean, do you guys think that that could have been the result of his early death? Was the film or the Lee family cursed? I guess we will never know for certain. We can only speculate. Oh, and also a crew member was actually electrocuted on the first day of shooting, and he managed to barely escape death. I mean, what is going on? Also, it doesn't stop there because one of the prop trucks caught on fire, and no one knows why. A stuntman almost died when he fell through a rooftop set, and while they were filming in North Carolina, they had to deal with a ton of hurricanes and freezing temperatures. It's almost like Mother Nature was saying, you know, don't film this video. The Superman curse flies into number 8. Superman is probably best known for his invincibility, but for the actors who played him during the 70s and 80s definitely were not. Ruined careers, major health issues, and even death are just some of the things that happened to people who were involved with the Superman franchise. One of the most infamous things that happened was the apparent suicide of George Reeve. He was found dead due to a gunshot wound at his home, but his death was very controversial. It was ruled a suicide, but his fingerprints were never found on the gun, and he was having an affair with the wife of a high-profile MGM executive. So his death stirred up a lot of controversies, and that's when the Superman curse came to be known. Christopher Reeve, you guys remember him? Well, he was also a victim of the curse. He was thrown from a horse in 1995, which caused him to become paralyzed from the neck down, and he died at a young age from heart failure. The actress that played Lois Lane suffered from mental illnesses. And the list goes on and on and on. The Wizard of Oz falls onto this list at number 7. Over the years, The Wizard of Oz has become an American classic. I mean, I could watch it every day. It's that good. But of course, it also has its fair share of infamous myths and legends, like the Munchkin that supposedly hung himself on set. Some of those myths were debunked, but there are a lot of other weird things that happened on set that actually makes you believe that the Wizard of Oz could be cursed. The silver makeup on Tin Man left the actor in the hospital due to severe lung complications. A pyrotechnic accident burned the Wicked Witch of the West, which also landed her in the hospital, right next to Tin Man. Several of the flying monkeys fell from their harness, and Judy Garland had an extremely troubled life after the movie was released. She struggled with addiction and eventually died of a drug overdose, as she was really young. She was only 47 years old. Oh, and the actor that played the wizard got into a serious car accident that killed his chauffeur. and left his wife permanently crippled in her right leg. And let's not forget about Auntie Em and Uncle Henry. They both died before the film was set to be released on TV. I mean, if that movie is not cursed, I don't know what cursed is. The Exorcist possesses us in at number 6. Did you guys know that there are at least 8 deaths that were associated with the filming of The Exorcist? And I'm pretty sure that's the definition of a cursed movie. But those deaths aren't even the strangest things that are connected to the movie. The set for the McNeil home burned down in a studio fire, but Regan's room was supposedly untouched by the fire. Probably the strangest and scariest thing that has happened with the movie was during the premiere. At the Italian premiere, a lightning bolt hit a nearby church and destroyed a 400-year-old cross. I mean, that definitely seems like the devil was at play with this one. Maybe they should have gotten a real priest to perform an exorcism on set. The Amityville Horror haunts us at number 5. Here's another movie that was based on a true story about the Lutz family, and they experienced paranormal activities, and this is after they moved into a haunted house on 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. But it seems like the haunting didn't end with the Lutz family. During shooting the remake, crew members found themselves waking up at exactly 3:15 in the morning, which was the exact same time the original Amityville killings occurred. Also during the film, the body of a dead fisherman washed up on the shore near the film set. But this wasn't the only dead body associated with making this film. Kathy Lutz, who owned the real Amityville house, died shortly after the film began shooting, and her husband died in 2005 while he was trying to sue for the movie rights. It's kind of strange that the 2 original Amityville owners died during the film production, isn't it? I mean, what is going on? The Dark Knight trilogy drives into this list at number 4. You'd be surprised about how many tragic accidents that are connected to this franchise. A stuntman working in China on the set of The Dark Knight unfortunately died when the truck he was filming on crashed. The stuntwoman for Anne Hathaway, who played Catwoman, crashed into an expensive camera equipment during filming. Back in 2008, Morgan Freeman was badly injured in a car accident, and Heath Ledger, you know, the actor that played the Joker, well, he died suddenly from a drug overdose just months after filming the movie. Is this real life right now? And then years later, on the premiere of The Dark Knight Rises, James Holmes walked into a theater and started shooting at innocent people. 12 lives were taken that night and 38 others were injured. Rosemary's Baby comes crashing in at number 3. This movie brought a lot of misfortune and a disturbing amount of horror to those people who worked behind the cameras of this film. The composer died after he accidentally fell, and the producer suffered from gallstones as soon as the film wrapped up. This required him to have his gallbladder removed. But the most infamous thing that happened to someone who was connected to this movie has to be what happened to the film's director. His wife Sharon Tate was murdered by the Manson family. She was 8 months pregnant at the time with their first child. Poltergeist curses us on this list, and at number 2. This is probably the most beloved horror movies of all time, but it also has an infamous reputation for being cursed. The movie is about a family who is being stalked and terrorized by a group of ghosts, and a demon that has a strange affinity to the youngest daughter. But during this production, a lot of its actors and cast members had their fair share of bad luck, and unfortunate things happened to them. Oh, and some of them have even died. Dominique Dunne, who played the older sister, was the first of the cast to die suddenly. She was choked to death by her ex-boyfriend, and it's because of her death that many people believe in this curse. The actress who played Carol Ann died suddenly from an unexpected illness. Another actor was involved in a plane crash, and someone else was brutally murdered. Oh, and a child was attacked by a mechanical clown while on set. The clown actually malfunctioned and began to choke him. I don't even know how that is a thing. Well, I'm actually starting to believe in these curses. The Omen breaks onto this list at number 1. A lot of people believe that this film could be one of the most cursed films ever produced, and that's exactly why I will never go watch it. And some people believe that the devil is behind it all. Okay, let's break down all the curses that are linked with the movie. The designer was in a car accident that decapitated his passenger, just like a scene in the movie. The animal trainer was killed by a tiger. Lightning struck the planes that carried the cast and crew on 3 separate occasions. I mean, how does lightning strike your plane even once? It happened 3 times. A group of Rottweilers attacked a stuntman. Some of the cast were nearly blown up on 2 2 separate occasions that involved the Irish Republican Army. An airplane that the crew hired for aerial shots was rented to someone else and then it crashed, killing several people. And the list goes on and on, so I guess it's safe to say that this film is definitely cursed. And this is a prime example of a bad omen. In at number 10. This movie was released in 2012 and it's about a young girl who stumbles across a cursed diebuck box that contains a demonic spirit looking to possess and feast on humans. The synopsis is scary enough, but did you guys know that some messed up things happened while this movie was in production? Lights exploded on set and props mysteriously burst into flames, but that's not where the fun ends. Due to the popularity of the film, thousands of people were looking to purchase a diebuck box online so they could see what the hype is all about. And unfortunately for them, a lot of bad things happen to a lot of innocent people. This movie will make you think twice about going to a garage sale or shopping on eBay. The Quantum of Solace dives onto this list at number 9. This is the 22nd movie in the James Bond series. Okay, how many James Bond movies do we need? And I'm yet to see any of them. Well, during the shooting of the film, a lot of mishaps occurred, which made a lot of people think that this movie is cursed. Daniel Craig, Mr. Bond himself, accidentally sliced off the tip of his fingers, and on another occasion, he cut his face so badly that he had to get stitches, which interrupted filming. But wait, there's more. A very destructive fire caused extensive damage to the set, and several stuntmen were severely hurt in a car crash. And to top it all off, the movie didn't do well at the box office and it got a lot of negative reviews, so it really wasn't worth making it. Let's keep this cursed list moving. In at number 8, we have A Rebel Without a Cause. This is an oldie but goodie. Rebel Without a Cause was released in 1955 and it was about a troubled teenager who moves to a new town to get a clean slate, but as fate would have it, trouble follows him wherever he goes and he finds himself in a very sticky situation. James Dean was the main star of the film, but sadly before the movie was released, he died in a tragic car crash. Actually, he was the first of 3 actors who starred in this movie to die way too soon. Salmino was another star in the movie. After its release, he went on to some other acting gigs, but his career kind of flopped. But just as he was making a comeback, he was stabbed to death while on his way home from a rehearsal. Natalie Wood soon met her untimely fate when she died while filming another movie called Brainstorm. So a lot of people in Hollywood say that this movie is cursed and anyone who worked on it has had some form of bad luck happen to them. The Matrix brings us to number 7. Released in 1999, The Matrix was referred to as a cinematic revolution because of their groundbreaking special effects and for producing something that we've never seen before at the time. However, as the sequel started getting pumped out, because the main movie did really well, so why not make many more of them? Well, there was curses and bad luck surrounding making the trilogy. First, we have the tragic death of Aaliyah, who died in an airplane crash. Before she died, Aaliyah was cast in the sequel of The Matrix as the character Z. She even filmed parts of her role, but it had to be recast. Aaliyah wasn't the only unfortunate one. Gloria Foster also died while shooting the sequel back in 2001. She died from complications related to diabetes. And then there was Keanu Reeves, who showed up on his first day shooting with a neck brace because he had to have spinal surgery just a few weeks before shooting. I mean, what is going on? So all of his fight scenes had to be reworked, and don't even get me started with the budget. Apparently the cost of the production spiraled out of control, and the whole franchise was in some pretty serious jeopardy of being shut down. I say as soon as the first person dies, you gotta shut that stuff down. Psycho stabs its way onto this list at number 6. This is a cult classic that was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Really amazing director. And it's a movie that doesn't need an introduction. But in case you guys need a little refresher, well, here are some of the most infamous scenes from the movie. I'm pretty sure everyone was afraid to take a shower after watching this movie. But let's talk about how one of the biggest tragedies surrounding this movie, Myra Jones, was a body double for Janet Leigh while she was brutally murdered on set when a handyman killed her. Apparently he was obsessed with Hitchcock and he told the police that he killed her in order to impress him. I mean, that sounds like we need some pretty intense background checks on the people in the background of the movies because, I mean, we just had a killer on set. How did he get there? Passion of the Christ brings us to number 5. This movie was already the center of a lot of controversy when it was released. It was attacked for being anti-Semitic and for having too much gory violence, but as it turns out, it became a major box office success, earning over $600 million worldwide. But this film did not escape from being cursed. I guess God had a problem with the film, maybe they got a few things wrong, because on-set accidents that make you wonder if the big guy upstairs wasn't pleased with the movie. Well, the actor who played Jesus was struck by lightning during filming, and I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. Do you know how rare it would be to be struck by lightning? It's about 1 in 700,000. I mean, you've never met someone struck by lightning. And if that wasn't enough for you guys, he also dislocated his shoulder while carrying the crucifix and had his flesh ripped off his back while being whipped. I mean, what the heck is going on? The assistant director was also struck by lightning 2 separate times while filming. I mean, I would shut it down at that point. How is this even possible? I'd stop production, throw some holy water on set, and have a priest bless this movie, and I would never release it. And now number 4, we have the movie Brainstorm. This is a movie that starred Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood. And it was about a machine that allows to live our other people's experiences. Sounds like a cool concept, but during the filming of the movie, Natalie Wood, her husband and Christopher Walken were on a yacht. Sounds like a good time, right? Well, wrong. Natalie Wood fell into the water while she was drinking, but she ended up drowning because no one saw her fall into the water. Years after her death, the captain of the ship said that her husband killed her. No charges were ever made, but her death forced the production to use a body double, and after years of delays, the studio released the movie with no advertising. It basically ended the director's career, and that's probably why you've never heard or seen this movie. Climbing up this list, in at number 3, we have The Twilight Zone, the movie. It's no secret that Twilight Zone is full of strange and bizarre stories, but this real-life curse is even more terrifying. While filming this movie, there was one scene where the lead actor was supposed to rescue 2 children. The director wanted to use a helicopter to fly overhead, but the helicopter crashed, and it ended up crushing one of the kids and cutting the hand off of the lead actor and the other child. The director John Landis and producer Steven Spielberg were ultimately acquitted of involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment. The parents of the children sued and settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. It's probably millions. This is probably one of the most tragic things that can ever happen on set. The Conqueror is up next at number 2. For those of you guys who don't know, The Conqueror is a movie that was released back in 1956, starring John Wayne. I've personally never seen it, and probably never will, to be honest with you guys, but I was pretty shocked when I read about all of the curses surrounding this film, and the reason why it doesn't really want to make me, it doesn't make me want to see it. I don't want to be cursed. Firstly, we had a flash flood that killed nearly the entire crew, and if that wasn't traumatizing enough, the lead actress was attacked by a Black Panther. But wait, there's more. The entire cast and crew were exposed to a nuclear fallout for the entire 13 weeks that they filmed in Snow Canyon. There was literally downwind from where the US Army was testing 11 atomic bombs. How does it even make sense? There must have been a million other places that they could have filmed, so because of this, a lot of people who worked on the film were diagnosed and died of cancer just after a few years after filming was done, including John Wayne. And finally, topping our list, in at number 1, we have Atuk. It's okay if you've never heard of this movie, Atuk, because I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. But before scripting this, I had no idea what this movie was. But now I'm going to refer to this movie as one of the most cursed movies that has ever been made, and you know what? I will tell you why. Atuk is a comedy about an Alaskan Inuit. It started off with John Belushi being offered the role, but soon after he finished reading the script, he passed away from a drug overdose. Is the plot really that bad? But then another actor was offered the role, and when he got on set, he demanded that the entire script was changed. I guess the plot was crap, but because he was acting like a diva, he was fired, and shortly afterwards, he died from a car crash. John Candy was next in line. He died of a heart attack. The last 2 actors that were offered the role were Chris Farley and Phil Hartman. Farley died of a drug overdose and Hartman died from a gunshot wound. So as far as I know, the movie is no longer in production, and it's probably a good idea because it's known as an actor killer. I mean, after knowing about all of that, I wouldn't want to be the actor of this film.
Coming in at number 10, we have The Conjuring 2. I don't fancy watching any more of the Ed and Lorraine Warren movies. I will because I do like a scary movie, but to be honest, they're all just a bit real for me. The Conjuring is about the real-life Amityville horror case in which a farmhouse in Rhode Island was reported to be haunted by a poltergeist. Not only are the Conjuring movies based on true reported stories, but there were a number of reports of possessions and even deaths after the film was released in cinemas. In Malaysia, footage went viral of a woman writhing and crying in a cinema after she watched the film. Onlookers claimed that, yeah, she was possessed. The video posted on Facebook got 4.6 million views. Further to that, a man was said to have had a heart attack whilst watching the film in India. He died in hospital, but then his body went missing, as did the morticians tasked with transporting it. Honestly, like, what is happening? Also, the cast were said to be haunted by a presence on set. Vera Farmiga reported claw marks on her laptop. The movie even hired an on-set exorcist. Coming into number 9, this is actually one of my favourite films, we have A Clockwork Orange. I mean, you should absolutely watch this film, it's one of the greatest movies of all time and I love Stanley Kubrick, but for the sake of this video, let's talk about how and why it's cursed. A Clockwork Orange is a masterpiece about a dystopian future in which a gang of droogs commit ultra-violent crime rampages. The film features a lot of violence, including rape, as well as some deep psychological discussions. The film was so controversial that it was banned in the UK from 1973 to 1999. This was partially as a response from a request from Kubrick himself, who began receiving death threats, and also partially because of an alarming number of copycat criminals. In the early 1970s, there were 2 high-profile murders wherein teens that committed the acts directly referred to the film. There was also a gang rape during which the rapist sang Singin' in the Rain, like Alex does in the movie. A British judge once referred to the movie as an evil in itself. Coming into number 8, we have The Twilight Zone. Not only is The Twilight Zone the movie a totally creepy film, this star, Vic Morrow, predicted his own on-set death. Morrow took out life insurance a year before filming as he had a premonition that he would die in a helicopter crash. Weirdly, before filming, the movie's concept artist included a burnt-out helicopter in one of their sketches, despite not being instructed to. During filming for one of the movie's final scenes, Vic Morrow was acting with 2 children pretending to rescue them from a Vietnamese village. Unfortunately, a helicopter in the scene did crash, decapitating the actor and a 6-year-old child. Another 6-year-old child was crushed to death. As a result of Morrow's death, the remaining few scenes could not be filmed, and all of the scenes that were filmed involving the 2 children were deleted from the final cut. Coming into number 7, we have The Passion of Christ. Someone or something was not happy about this movie's production. During filming, the starring actor Jim Caviezel was struck by lightning when he was portraying the Sermon on the Mount. The film's assistant director was also struck by lightning, not once, but twice. Again, both of these lightning strikes were during the production. Back to Caviezel though, he also contracted pneumonia while filming and had an adverse skin reaction to the makeup using to depict his stigmata. Coming into number 6, we have The Crow. There were many bad omens to the people unlucky enough to be making this movie, and some of the deaths that occurred were weirdly prophesized. The movie is a horror about a man who goes on a murder spree guided by a possessed crow. The star of the movie, Bruce Lee's son Brandon, was killed whilst filming when bullets were accidentally loaded into a prop gun. Brandon was mortally wounded when a .44 Magnum bullet hit him in the abdomen. His death was perhaps foreshadowed by 2 of his father's movies, one where his dad's fighting a demon that instead goes for his son, and also in the movie Game of Death. This is where his character dies after a gangster replaces a fake bullet with a live one. Bruce Lee also died in strange circumstances shortly after filming that movie. Is it the family that's cursed, or is it the movie industry? Also, during the filming of The Crow, a crew member suffered 90% burns. A lot of the set was destroyed by a storm. A set sculptor crashed his car through a props room, and another set worker impaled his hand with a screwdriver. Moving on to number 5, we have Queen of the Damned. Queen of the Damned was the last movie that doomed pop star and actress Aliyah filmed before her death, although this isn't the focus of our story here. In 2004, a Scottish man by the name of Alan Menzies from West Lothian developed an obsession with the movie, in particular Aliyah's character, Vampire Akasha. He watched the film over 100 times and believed that Akasha was communicating with him and wanted him to harm other people. When his friend Thomas McKendrick confronted him about his unhealthy obsession with the film, Menzies believed that Akasha instructed him to kill the man and drink his blood, which he did. Coming into number 4, we have The Grifter. The Grifter is said to be a genuinely cursed movie published on the dark web. In an article on 4chan, it says that the online movie was made in 2008 and that those who watched it would experience nausea and nightmares. Some even say that their souls were altered after watching the film. It is is said that those who watch the movie in its entirety may well be sought out and killed by a mysterious murderer. The full movie only exists on the dark web, and even then, you may struggle to find it. There is, however, a 1-minute clip of the cursed footage on YouTube. Whether this is a legitimately cursed film or just an urban legend, you decide. But you know what? I would just say beware before watching any of the grifter. Coming into number 3, we have a Serbian film. Now, I don't know about being cursed with a ghoul or Satan or anything, but this film will have a long-lasting effect on your mental health, and honestly, I would dissuade anyone from watching it. It is genuinely disturbing and not okay. A Serbian film is about a retired porn star who agrees to do one more movie for an extremely large sum of money, only he has to agree to do whatever the movie's director wants, and what the director wants is literally nothing you ever want to see. The movie involves a baby and a headless woman, and is so dark and disgusting that it was thrown out of a horror movie festival in London before it even aired. One US distributor fainted as he tried to leave a screening of a Serbian film earlier this year. He hit his head on the door as he exited and ended up needing stitches. Coming into number 2, we have A Triumph of the Will. Triumph des Willens is a very effective Nazi propaganda film. This was directed by Reich movie director Leni Riefenstahl. The film is about the return of Germany as a great power under the helm of the supreme leader Adolf Hitler. The movie, whilst horrifying to watch, is often hailed as one of the greatest propaganda films in history and really presents Nazism as a political religion. The music, the camera angles, and the cinematography work together to create the perfect concoction to brainwash a nation. The movie was watched by millions of Germans who were indoctrinated into believing in Riefenstahl's rhetoric. They honestly believed that Hitler was their one true savior, and this movie was a big reason as to why. Finally, coming into number 1 of our cursed movies you shouldn't watch, it's a classic, it's The Exorcist. A movie about demonic possession that caused uproar when it was released. I mean, of course The Exorcist is cursed. The movie suffered a whole host of issues whilst filming. The set burned down inexplicably and had to be rebuilt, delaying film for over 6 weeks. Also, 2 of the movie's actors died suddenly after the film was wrapped. A night watchman and a special effects expert also died during filming too. The actor who played the voice of the demon suffered tragedy 14 years later when her son murdered his wife and children before taking his own life. As the film was released on Boxing Day in 1973, swathes of people vomited in movie theaters, many blacked out. People across the world thought they themselves had become possessed. A handful of people even had heart attacks, and one woman even claimed that she suffered a miscarriage. In Rome, it was reported that lightning struck a church opposite the movie theater the film was premiering at. A rumor spread that the evangelist Billy Graham preached that evil was physically embedded into the film itself. I honestly would probably call the curse a good marketing technique, but people did actually die.